All right, yo. Let's do another one. It's February 12th, 2024. Hey, Neat, did you hear about the exchange the other day on the TNT crew?
What?
Barkley asked Shaq, he goes, "Hey, do you think Bol Bol's is as good as Wimbiana?" And Shaq's like, "Yes, I do." And that's when Ernie said, "Yeah, he exploded for 6 points tonight." What's up, y'all? We are the Hoopstorians. I'm Tony Styles. This is Unique. Let's get into this day in NBA history. February 12th, 1934. Bill Russell is born. All-time leader in titles in the NBA with 11 and 1 in the finals. Where do you got Russell ranked all time?
I don't know exactly what number. He's between 10 and 15 for me, though. He's
What
in
do you
my
say?
top 15.
What do you
Hmm?
say the argument? What do you say the argument is for him to be in the top 10, and what's the argument for it to not be?
Was he finals MVP?
Well, they didn't have the Finals MVP that back then. Well, they had it 1 year, and they gave it to Jerry West in the first year on a losing team.
Okay. So the year that they did have it where he went, he didn't make it. Also what he was averaging in the finals, about what, 19, 20?
I think it was somewhere between 15 and 18. I'm not quite sure. I know some of the finals he did average over 20 though. Some of the
So
finals
he
he
was
was
averaging
20,
it.
like
So
22.
okay. I mean, reasons like that. Like he's averaging under 20 in the finals when you got people in the finals that are averaging 25 to 30. So
I got you.
he's up there though. I mean, the fact that he's won so many speaks for itself though.
I got you. Well, and that was this day in NBA history. So, we got a guest coming on right now. He is the what's the name of it? The Universe Galaxy NBA. He has over 1 billion clicks. He currently has 20 20,000 subscribers, I believe, on his page. I know he's had a few different pages that have been deleted and kicked off and banned from YouTube. Can you hear us?
Hey, yo, how you doing? Thanks for having me on your program.
Oh well, thanks for coming along. How many pages have you had banned and kicked and all that?
Yeah, so basically, just to give a quick rundown, when you take all the YouTube pages I've had, it's equaled over 1 billion clicks. I've had two pages deleted, and one was this one that I'm on right now. And then the other one is the Michael Jordan fans are the worst sports fans of all time. And the funny thing is, each page that was deleted three times each. YouTube kept deleting it, giving it back, deleting it, giving it back. And finally, they said, okay, you know what? We're going to stop deleting it. You can have your pages back. But they took off a lot of subscribers, took off a lot of clicks, and yada, yada, there's a lot of details there. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible so I don't bore everyone.
Gotcha. So, can you give us a brief intro before we get into it? Why you think Michael Jordan fans are the worst fans, and why you think? Correction, he did email me this. He never said that it was out of the top 100. He says that he doesn't know if Michael Jordan's even in the top 100. So, can
That's
you give
right.
us just a brief rundown about
Sure,
that?
sure, sure. It's really simple for the fans part. Whenever you try to figure out, if you try to figure out who are the worst sports fans, what do? You go by, okay, how many times do any group of fans, whoever you're going by, do they deny facts? Do they move the goalpost? Do they contradict themselves? And so on. It's not one thing, it's a number of things. In other words, you go by the whole picture. You don't cherry pick things to suit your narrative. You go by everything. It's like anything in life. When you buy a house, when you want to get married, when you want to figure out what school to go to, whatever, you go by all the factors and then you lay it out there. When you look at the way Michael Jordan fans react when you don't pick their childhood NBA hero, and you look at how they attack you, and when you look at how they have double standards and all that, and then you compare it to all the other fans out there, I know Michael Jordan fans right now are thinking LeBron James fans, because that's how they think. When you look at everything together and add it up, they are the worst sports fans of all time. In fact, if anyone here or listening tells me, no, 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 these group of sports fans are worse, just list whatever you think is bad about them, and I will find something equally for Michael Jordan fans, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll find you more things questionable about Michael Jordan fans. To your other question, you want to know the top 100 thing?
Yes.
Okay. There's no such thing as ranking players. There's no such thing as this guy is number 1, this guy is number 14, this guy is number 20, and so on. But if you're going to rank players anyway, and Michael Jordan fans love to rank players, whenever you don't pick their guy, they'll say, who's your number 1 guy? Who's your top 11? Who's your top 20? They want, and so on. They want you to list people for them to make it easier for them because they want to compare their guy to your guy. So whenever you try to rank players, if you're going to do it anyway, you have to understand they go by whatever they want. So if they can go by whatever they want, why can't someone else go by whatever they want? You also have to understand when they have the NBA's top 50 list and a top 75 list, look at who they left out. Bernard King gone. Artis Gilmore gone. Alex English gone. A bunch of star players not on the list, and Michael Jordan fans never questioned that. But then if you dare not put Michael Jordan, that's a problem for them. What is the logic in keeping other Hall of Famers out, but then you can't keep Michael Jordan out? And the last and final thing, at the end of the day, if you want to go by facts, there is no fact that's going to prove Michael Jordan is top 100. So no matter what you want to list, 10 scoring titles, number 1 in PER, he won rings magically by himself, all the nutty things that Michael Jordan fans come up with, none of it's going to prove factually he has to be top 100. So therefore, when people say he has to be top 100, they're just making things up. You got to be consistent. If you can leave other people off, why not Michael Jordan?
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, it's dumb because you don't know your NBA and you're brainwashed about them.
No, it's dumb because one, you can absolutely rank players. That's
I didn't say you can't, homie.
Well, you did say you can't.
Paying attention, dummy.
Rank players, and then you tried to use some guys who and said, well, if you can't rank them, if you leave them off the list,
your lack of knowledge for players doesn't mean they don't exist.
Hold on.
Mindset: the NBA in the past sucked. And everyone wasn't skilled, and they were a bunch of white boys, and the average height was 6'6". This is your mindset that the NBA magically got better in 1979.
You don't know my mindset. You don't know my mindset at all.
I do because I'll tell you how I know. Because
you know nothing about me.
I'll tell you how I know. I'll tell you.
You said you can't rank players.
How I know.
You can leave Michael Jordan out of the top.
If you don't want to know, that's fine. If you don't want to know how I know, then don't tell me I don't know. I'll tell you how I know. Because if you're not gonna tear down why you think they're not good enough, then that means you made up your own magical reason of why Michael Jordan has to be there. Because I know you have no proof. So if you have no proof,
I do have proof.
No, you don't. You have things.
That's why people keep track of scores. That's why people get accolades. That's why people watch basketball.
So all you have to do is show me the fact, not your belief. I don't want your beliefs.
Well, rankings are all.
Listen, this is what I knew was going to happen tonight. I told the host was going to happen, and I want to remind everybody: the guy with the gray hair attacked me first. That's why I'm
attacking you. You talked for 5 minutes, and I said, "I think what you're saying is ridiculous."
We're not. I see the guy with the big cap squinting his eyes over and over like I'm an idiot. The guy with the Nike cap squinting his eyes like I'm an idiot. And then he said, this is a dumb argument. These are attacks. We're not having a serious discussion.
Unless you're uber sensitive.
Homie. When you call someone dumb who you just met,
I didn't say you were dumb.
You know what I mean? I don't have the exact words. When you throw out the dumb arguments, you're the one being sensitive uber person.
No, all I said was I think it's a dumb argument because your argument is that if you keep one person off a list.
I know what you said. I'm saying to you, before you call someone sensitive, look at how you act. If you have a problem with my argument, attack the argument with facts.
I am attacking the argument. I'm trying to, but you keep cutting me up.
No, squinting your eyes and calling it dumb and nodding your head is not attacking it factually. It's you being sensitive. And when I call you out on this, I know you're too prideful to admit it, so you want to call me sensitive then.
Hold on. I want to say one thing on this, though, because we're going back and forth and we're not getting any points. We're just arguing.
And I knew this would happen.
Because he doesn't let it.
But this is how Michael Jordan fans are. You don't pick their guy.
Jordan fans. See what I mean?
You don't pick their guy. It's a dumb argument. This is how they think.
That's my point. You know nothing about me, and you're making an assumption. I'm not a Michael Jordan guy. Yeah,
You are. You no, you are. You and you know nothing
top
about
5.
me.
He's not even a top
And
5
and
favorite
you don't
players.
know and you don't know anything about me. If I met you for the first time and you told me Jerry West has to be top 100 and I disagreed, I wouldn't squint my eyes and go, "That's a dumb argument." I would just say, "Hey, what's
That's
your name?"
you. People can squint
I
their
would,
eyes. It's
I would
facial
say, all right,
expression.
you
You
know,
can't
this is,
control
I don't
people's
want to do
facial
3-1-1.
expression.
Look, no, I don't want to do
Oh,
it 3
oh,
1.
wait, 1 second. I want to say something. I want to say something. Hold on. I just want to say this because everybody's talking and everybody's muted. So I just want to say this. Okay. Here's what's happening right now. Okay. One, to say that they're squinting their eyes. Well, that's an unfair comparison. Okay. Because we don't see your face. We don't get to see you squinting eyes. And he's gone.
Stuff.
And he's gone.
He left.
He left. He left. But anyways, though, yeah, where the unfairness
Okay,
is
so
there was no
let's.
squinting the eyes.
Well, we can't see if he's squinting his eyes. He
And that's
refuses
my
to be
point.
on camera,
Right.
and to say it's a dumb argument is a very valid thing to say. It's not sensitive. It's a dumb argument because the argument is if you can leave one person off a list, then you can leave anyone off a list. Well, there's no other word to explain that other than that's dumb, because of course there's going to be someone that's left off a list because one, lists are subjective. Two, all fans are going to. That's why it's called fans, because they're fanatics. It's a short form of fanatic. You're going to try to make the case for your person, and that's why I say, and I'm very open, but Michael Jordan's not in my top 5 favorite players, but I still have him in my, like, I have him number 1. But if you have him number 1, number 2, number 3, and you make your argument as to why, there's validity to that. But this guy that you tried to bring on, who's again, he proved his point that he's uber sensitive by leaving, right? Like, you come on to make your point, you talk for 5 minutes, then you talk, I listen, I talk, you listen. That's kind of how shows typically work. And the second someone else tries to talk, you interrupt and don't let them get off, then, well, that's you being sensitive. The fact that he says you can't factually prove it, well, technically what he's saying is true, technically, because it's subjective what you find to be important. You might say, oh, the most important thing about basketball is the eye test. Well, then that's very subjective to, oh, the most important thing is, I don't know, defensive rebounds. Okay. But again, factually, if we're talking facts, that's what statistics are for, right? That's why we keep track of who scores the most, who rebounds, assists. We give accolades out. Those are all things that you use to make a case for your rankings.
Well, I pulled up
I
some
apologize
numbers.
if I scared your guest off.
No, that's fine. I apologize. Me and him had a few conversations, and I think what the argument that he says is that no necessarily one thing is better than the other because it takes every component to win a ring or be the best, and it's a team game, not an individual game. And so,
No.
if you elevate Michael Jordan because of his scoring, well, then why can't we elevate Dennis Rodman over him because of his rebounds? And this might not be what he's thinking, but this was the
Because
vibe I picked off. And if he wants to come back on and clarify that,
sure.
more than welcome, to come back on and say that. But then I tried to do a number system. Go ahead.
If I may, and if I may, when someone says something like that, I disagree, because who wins the game? The team. It is a team game. The team that scores the most points, or the team that gets the most rebounds. Now, are rebounds important? Of course. Are assists important?
Right.
Of course. Are blocks, steals, all those things important?
Right.
But you value scoring over everything else because it's the team that scores the most that wins. Every time, 100% of the time. I've never, and if you can find me one instance where the team that scored less won, I'd be very impressed to see that.
Well, I've said that before. I said you can out rebound somebody and lose, out assist, out steal. You cannot outscore the team and lose. I've used that point as well.
It'll never happen.
So that's what I'm saying. So I actually ran a bunch of numbers to try to compare with the numbers, but we lost him and all that. So I guess this is going to be an ode to Michael Jordan show, since he left us high and dry on that. But I can tell you what I did do. So what I went ahead and did is, just to show this, and if he's listening, and those that want to know. I took a bunch of analytic stats. I took PER, I took true shooting percentage, I took offensive rating, offensive win shares, defensive win shares overall, win shares per 48, box plus minus, offensive box plus minus, defensive box plus minus, and value over replacement player. I took all those stats because those are just basically about winning the game. It's how much you help your team on defense, how much you help your team on offense. Some of these things, and except for like PER, that's about how efficient you are. And normally, the more efficient you are, the better that is for you. If I make 11 out of 14 shots and you make 7 out of 14 shots, more than likely I have the lead, and that's going to lead me to a win. So I took all these things, and I also took some of these things, and I perfectly skewed the numbers to make Michael Jordan in one of the worst possible positions. Some of these numbers are totals. Well, about 6 players out of these 11 guys I took had more games than him. And I took guys, for example, like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Shaq, Wilt, Kareem, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Larry Bird, Kobe Bryant, Bill Russell. All
Why'd you
guys that
pick
are,
them? Why'd you pick those?
because those are
Good
those are a
marketing.
lot of those are a lot of consensus top 10
Okay.
guys. And I left out guys like Oscar and Jerry West because even though people do have them in their top 10, they missed a lot of stats. So I only took the 2 biggest ones from that era, and Bill and Wilt, and they missed a lot of the stats. But basically, the way this worked is I typed in what position they were in. If they were second in PER, if they were, 8th in offensive rating, I took all their numbers up and I averaged it out by that 12 categories. The only person that came in ahead of Michael Jordan in positioning was Kareem at 21.9. So if you take all those numbers, you will find Kareem on average at 22nd on the list. Michael Jordan came in second at 27.8. So I took these stats. He's still in the upper echelon over all these guys. So all these guys that are considered, he's at least number 2 in that regard, which is a far cry from outside of the top 100, don't know if he's the top 100, things like that. Then I took the other numbers of basically just generally averaging. What'd you average in points, blocks, steals, assists, all that? He came in tied for 3rd behind Bird and LeBron. But I also skewed the numbers. 3 of them both averaged 0.8. I gave Jordan the lowest ranking. He might average more. I didn't break it down like that. But like I said, I skewed the numbers to purposely. So he was 3rd in that. When you took it by per 36, when we factor in what minutes were played, and I even kept Kobe's minutes at 36.1, giving him an edge, Jordan still came in tied for 2nd with LeBron behind Bird. So every number breakdown I've tried to do, I can't find where Jordan, compared to other players, he's still in the upper echelon in all of these categories. And then you factor in awards. Maybe you don't consider awards matter. Maybe you do. To me, it's a tripod of greatness. You have the numbers, you have the awards, and then you have the titles. And if you have all 3, your tripod's very sturdy. Now that's where I'm at on Jordan and the numbers that I crunched. What was going to be your guys' arguments for it since we lost him?
To be honest, I really didn't even come in to go in with an argument to defend Jordan or anyone else for that matter. Because I've always said I have, Jordan, LeBron, Kareem as my top 3. And I've said if you have Kareem, LeBron, Jordan, LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, LeBron, Kareem, like I don't care what order you have those 3 in, because those 3 typically are going to get skewed based on what you find important. Like if you look at basketball, like all of basketball, not just NBA, you're probably going to have Kareem at the top because Kareem dominated in high school, dominated in college, and dominated in the NBA. Nobody else has his resume if you think about it. And not to go into a Kareem rant, but he played high school for 3 years, won 3 state championships as the best player all 3 years. Went to UCLA, won 3 national titles, only lost 2 games in those 3 years, and he was the best player all 3 of those years at UCLA. So he wins there to all 3 seasons. Then goes to the NBA, and we know what he did there. Most MVPs, goes to 10 finals, wins 6 of them, has finals MVPs. Like he's got everything. When he retired, he was the all-time leader in scoring. Right, he averages rebounds, all that stuff, block shots. He's still top 5 in more categories than any other player in NBA history, even LeBron James. Played forever, obviously. So if you look at that, you're like, okay, Kareem's the GOAT. I'm okay with that. LeBron. Well, LeBron's an easy case, right? 21 years strong, leads, the only person who's going to be in the 40,000, 10,000, 10,000 club. Again, 10 NBA finals, 4 finals MVP. He's got, you can easily make a case for LeBron. And then Jordan, same thing, right? 6-0 in the finals, leads the league all time in points per game in the regular season, in the playoffs, most finals MVPs, 5 final, all defensive first team 9 times. He's got all that stuff too, right? He's got more accolades, I think, than LeBron and KD combined. plus the awards, plus the stats, plus the championships. So you can make a case for any of those three. I really wanted to hear how he could justify him being not in the top 100. That's why I came on, and he, made it 5 seconds before he said, "Well, if you can keep Bernard King off, then you can keep Jordan off." Dude, Jordan and Bernard King,
It's not
like,
the same.
it's not the same. It's not that's like saying, well, you put Bill Walton on so you could put, Rudy Gobert on.
No, no, no.
Exactly.
I agree with that too. And to further on your point, I have that, those same three, but I also have Wilt and Bill Russell in there. I think you need to factor in Wilt and Bill Russell. And for just a bunch of reasons, they tracked Wilt's blocks through 112 games that they could. He averaged 8.8 blocks in those 112 games. He's got
Sure.
countless records. And the 67 Sixers at one point were considered the greatest team ever, and the 72 Lakers. Wilt's the only one with those two guys, and Russell's won the most rings. And if winning's what's important, then those guys. And I know people knock them for the competition, but at the end of the day, they played the best competition that time had.
I
And
don't I don't
and
I don't
people in
knock
100 years are going to knock the players now and think
yeah.
their competition is worse.
Sure. Yeah, you can't control when you were born. You can only play against who's in front of you. So I don't knock the competition, but you can say, hey, he did have, you're going to look at his teammates, right? You're going to say, okay, he had significant better. He wasn't a very good player outside of, defensively shooting 44, even though when you say he shot 44%. Yeah, but that was still top 10, top 15 in the league,
At the
right?
time,
He
yeah.
didn't score a lot, but he was still top 10, top 15 in scoring. But
Well, and he has a career average of 15 a game. So it's not that he was an awful scorer. It wasn't he was Dennis Rodman.
no. But if you look at his year by year,
Yeah.
he's always in the top 10, top 15 in field goal percentage and in scoring. So for that time, now I will knock him for there was only 8 teams. You only have to go 2 rounds to make the NBA final, right? If you think about it, Jordan and LeBron have probably won more playoff series not to win a title than he did to win all those titles, right?
Right.
But again, yeah, you can put him in there. I'll tell you, I had a company in Germany run I don't know if you saw this episode, ran an algorithm, and they put all the stats that they can compile and put them into like some huge 86-page algorithm.
Right.
And it actually, Tim Duncan was second. Tim Duncan came second, which is a guy that no one ever talks about, even though I think he's in everybody's top 10. But he came in
I
second.
have him seventh.
Seventh, there you go.
Seventh.
That's what I said. He's in everybody's top 10. And it's because although I don't think he actually ever led the league in anything any year, but he was always there, right? He's always there. He was 5-1 in the finals. He never had a season where they didn't win 50 games, right? So he has a ton of stuff where although he's not, and that's the thing that it's hard for people to understand because they're like, well, if you don't lead in something, how can you be the best? And it's like, well, let me ask you this: if you're first in something and then 10th in everything else, but I'm third in everything, I'm probably better player than you because I'm better at everything.
Yeah.
That one thing.
Well, that just proves what I was saying, where I was averaging out these numbers by
Jordan,
position where they ranked.
Mm.
And also, too, Tim Duncan did, and I know this isn't a stat you can't see, but Tim Duncan led the league so many years in never being out of defensive position. If you ever watched him, he was never out of defensive position, and that's really worth something.
For sure.
You just can't quantify it, but you could see by the way his teams moved and worked. Because I'll let you know, the first rule of defense is stay between your man and the basket. If you know nothing else about defense, stay between your man and the basket. That's your goal.
That's all. I teach. I coach youth basketball, and I'm like, I go, and that's the first thing. I go, just do that, and then we'll work on everything else. I go, if you can just stay between your man and the basket, and not let them have open layups, we have a shot at every game.
Right.
Every game. And it's amazing how often that doesn't happen, even in the NBA.
It's amazing how many people. It's amazing how people consider themselves an expert. They don't know the first rule of defense.
Yeah.
But you played college ball.
When you talked to him, was there anything else, or is that his argument that since
No,
Bernard
he just said that and he didn't want to go into his exact points. He was going to save them for the show, and I said that's fine. I mean, I'd like to answer him on the spur of the moment, but he just basically said that like we're all brainwashed, and there's no way to define who's great. And, if you value scoring, why can't I value this? And that was the whole point. And he goes, but it's the team scoring, not the individual, because I gave him the example too, like I gave on your guys' show, that a dominant scorer, you have to have a guy that averages 25 points a game. It doesn't have to be that season, just has to be in their career, show that they can do it to win a title, because the 04 Pistons, since the 3-point line, are the only team that haven't done it. And he goes, well, why is 25 the magic number? Why isn't 25? I go, I don't know why it is, bro. It's just what I've done is research. Matter of fact, if I can just show you guys something, and I'll show you something real quick to show you why I am the way I am. You guys can talk amongst yourself. I'll show you why I know these things. Hold on.
Well, you were squinting your eyes. Why were you squinting your eyes?
I was squinting my eyes because I felt like the argument was ridiculous as well. Part of it is because to me, it didn't even seem like he really wanted to speak. It sounded like he more so came on to troll. It seemed like he wanted to ruffle feathers. I don't think he actually had any points, because anybody who watches basketball is going to know to say Michael Jordan is outside, and to say that this is an emotional argument or an emotional point shows how much you're not actually watching basketball, because to say something like Jordan is not in the top 100
may not be, because he was very big on that. He said
but
he
here's the
may
thing,
not
though.
be.
But I mean, he can't even play with me with the words either, though, because to say that he may not be is the same as saying he's not.
He's trying to get away with semantics and say, well, I said may not be. I didn't say he wasn't. And you know what? And listen, if he did get that many views or clicks, whatever he said clicks, it was because people are like, who the hell said that? Click. And then they hear the first 5 words and they're like, click, and they left. And just to answer the question, since he never let me answer the question,
He didn't want to.
Hold on. I was squinting because I have a smashing headache. I'm still squinting.
That's both of you guys.
I got
Wait a minute.
yeah.
I got
And
kids.
that's the other thing. That's another reason why I'm squinting.
Coach youth basketball. Or youth basketball, but also I came from youth baseball, and I just came from a practice, and my head is pounding because those kids were yelling and screaming and gave me a headache.
Well, that's why I wanted to put everybody on mute. I said that's not a fair assessment. Because you're talking about fairness and equality and no contradiction. If you can see us, well, we can't even see. You might be squinting too. I'm not saying he was. I'm saying I don't know.
I don't know. He could have been naked for all we know.
Right. But here's what I do want to say is, Fluent, do you remember how we met? What happened? Could you give me a little backstory?
You wanted to come on and drop some stuff about Kobe.
Right. And did I say I knew my shit, right? So
You
let
did,
me just show you an example. Do you see this? This is notepads, and we'll pull out any one. Watch this. Just to show you. Let me see here. Let me grab one. They'll quit falling. This is notepads I do, full of NBA stats. And I've been doing this for about 30 years.
You ever hear of computers?
No, because they don't have the answers I'm looking for, such as why is it a 25 point? I don't know why. That's just where the cutoff is. So he said, like, well, this is just something you made up, and this, that, and the other. No, it's just something I found. When people come on, they say stuff like, I sit and do stats for fun, just nonstop, and I enjoy it. And that's how I know what I know. So as I've done years and years of research, I haven't done years and years of research to make Michael Jordan the best. It's just, by the numbers, because this is all subjective. You know what I mean? When we go with the eye test, but the numbers don't lie. So we can say this is who's the best by the numbers, or this is what I think by the numbers. Now, that doesn't mean it's correct, but these are what the numbers are saying. And the numbers say 25 a game, not 24.
If you took all those players and you didn't know their names, now a lot of times you're going to know them by their stats, but if you just took the numbers, it would tell you something. Mm-hmm. The problem is, and it might be his problem, we don't have an opportunity to ask him. But the problem with most people is they're not looking for an answer. What they're looking for is confirmation of what they believe. It's this thing called confirmation bias. So, like, you'll see, there's a lot of, whether it's and look, this is
all fans,
to everybody: Jordan fans, LeBron fans, Kareem, KD fans, Steph fans. It doesn't matter. What they do is they say, "I believe this," and then they go out and they look for things that prove what they believe. And I'll give you an example. Go to any page, a fan page, hater page, or whatever, right? And if they say it's let's say it's a LeBron fan page, you go to a LeBron fan page and you start looking. What do they say? Oh, well, look, Rasheed Wallace said Jordan never played defense like that. Oh, look, I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone who said, Isaiah Thomas said LeBron's the greatest player ever. And I
Pippen said it at one point.
Pippen said it at one point. And I always say, well, can I ask a question? So you're bringing up this person that said that person's the greatest. Yes. So why is it that you're only believing that one person when you look at it as and again, this is not about Jordan and LeBron, but
Yeah.
as an example, if you look at all the media outlets, analysts, former players, current players, former coaches, current coaches, casual fans, knowledgeable fans, the majority, not all, but the majority all say Jordan. So I say if 7 out of 10 of all of those categories say Jordan, why are you believing the other 3?
You want to.
And the only answer is, well, that's what I believe, so I'm going to listen to those 3, right? And I go, okay, so if you went to 10 doctors and 7 of them told you take this pill to cure your cancer and the other 3 said, no, don't take anything, which would you do? You're going to die.
Well,
You're
Steve
gonna
Jobs
die.
went with the minority on that.
What's that?
Steve Jobs went with the minority on that.
But here's the thing, though. What that example is a gamble. You feel me? A gamble with your life versus NBA and statistics. Like the point that he's making is basically all of these people that are knowledgeable about basketball. Nobody that's knowledgeable about basketball puts him outside of the top 30, let alone the top 100.
No one puts him outside the top 5.
Well, there was somebody on one of your pages today said that I don't have Jordan in the top 25 too. So somebody said that on your page too. So,
But
So
even
no,
still, though, so let's say it's the top 5 all the way up to the top. That's still within the top 100. So I'm not understanding what argument he was going to come with. If there's no argument to prove he belongs, how are you going to come with an argument to say that he doesn't? If we're saying that the top or the greatest is based on all of these different variables, all these different factors that we make up in our mind, what is he really arguing? Because the reason to not put him on this level of greatness is based on the thoughts and whatever he has made up in his mind. Unfortunately, like we were saying, we didn't get to hear what it was that he had to say, which is part of the reason I don't feel like he really had anything to say. I think he just wanted to argue.
I think we did hear what he had to say. Because if I'm coming on a show, if I'm writing an article, if I'm doing anything, right? My job is to tell you my main point off the bat. So if his biggest point, you don't start with your weakest point, you start with your strongest point, and then you do other stuff, right? So his strongest point was, well, if these guys are off, then anyone can be off. That's he had, I don't know how many minutes, but we let him go for the first 5 minutes, right? You said, hey, go ahead, tell us what your thing is. And that was the only thing we got out of it, is that everybody's brainwashed, which sounds like a big conspiracy theorist right off the bat.
and you love that.
I love that. That's why I wanted to talk to the guy, because I love conspiracy theories. I've done 3 episodes with Flat Earth Dave, who believes the earth is flat. We never landed on the moon. I love that stuff. So that's what it upset me, that he left so quick, because you start with your biggest point. And if your biggest point is you're brainwashed, and if this person's off, then anybody can be off, well, then I'm sorry, maybe dumb was the wrong word, but it's a really weak argument. How about that? Is that better? It's a weak argument at best, right? Like, you got to come with something. Like, you say that I don't have facts to put him into the top 100. Okay, what are the facts to keep him out?
Exactly. Because those don't exist. You're not going to find facts to keep him out. He has way too many accolades. And even if you want to argue the accolades don't matter, how can you? How can accolades not matter when we talk about what it takes to be great? Accolades is going to be on that list. Wins is going to be on that list. Field goal percentage is going to be on that list. Everything that it takes to be a great player, he had.
I can't say this. He did say this, for example. He said, like, with actors, we'll use that. He did say this at one point in our conversation. He did say, like, actors, like, you never say Denzel's the greatest actor because he has 2 Academy Awards. So we never ever factor awards into any other thing. Just this to prove our point. I'm telling you what he said.
But
And this might be wrong, but I'm just paraphrasing something.
But here's the thing about it, though. We're not only factoring awards. Think about it. Jordan doesn't only have championships. He has scoring titles, championships, all NBA teams, rookie of the year. He has way more accolades than just championships.
Well,
So
I guess
Denzel doesn't have the number of statistics, but you could, if you were going to make a case for actors, you could say Denzel is the greatest actor of all time because he has X amount of Oscars, X amount of Academy, I don't know how the number, X
Yeah.
Academy Awards. He's done 20 movies, and on average, they make $1,400 million, whatever the hell what it is. So you could even make that a numerical thing. And then when I watch Denzel act, man, I
Skill.
believe in that character. So now I could put a numeric value and talk about his awards and talk about the eye test. It's not as in depth, obviously, because you're not keeping stats on that. But that's why. Check this out, Jordan. Let's say Jordan never won. The only reason he won was because they got Pippen on that draft day deal with Seattle, and he's the second best player on the team. He's not even the best. Pippen's the best all-around player because you hear that argument a lot. Jordan's the second best player on that team. Is Pippen top 50?
Yeah.
So if Jordan was the second best player and Pippen was the best, wouldn't Jordan still be top 50?
Easily. Well, I mean, even more so, he would be. I mean, we got Barkley in the top 20, 25 with only one MVP. If he had 5 MVPs like Jordan, I don't know where it would be one of those conundrums. This dude never won, but he exceeded every other check mark so far ahead of everybody else.
And let's again, I say this and you squinted your eyes when I said this, Neek. He's not in my top 5. Why? Because I grew up a Laker fan. I got Magic, I got Kobe, I got Worthy, like I've got like all those guys. West ahead of him as favorite players.
Oh, that's not what he
hated
says.
him. I hated him, especially in '91 when they beat the Lakers. No one was rooting harder for the Lakers than me in '91 or 91, whatever. That their first chip. 100%. I was rooting for the Lakers and hated that dude. But like at the end of the day, when you look back, you're like, shit, yeah, he's pretty great.
That's not what he means by Jordan fans, because he did break that down in one of our conversations. What he means is the things you factor in are the things that people factor in to elevate Mike over other players. So you are a Jordan fan in that regard. For example, like you factor in like your argument for scoring. Well, you factor that in as a higher stat over other stats and things like that. And like I said, I'm paraphrasing, and if he wants to hop back on, he can clear up what I'm saying.
But that's nitpicking, because what do we keep out? How do we determine what to factor in and what not to factor in?
I'll tell you, I factor everything. I look at scoring, I look at rebounding, I look at assists, I look at advanced statistics, I look at steals, blocks, turnovers. There's people who say, "Oh, I don't look at the negatives. I don't count turnovers." I'm like, "Well, that's a LeBron thing." But it counts. It's part of your game. If I'm going to give you assists, I'm going to count turnovers. And then, like I said, advanced statistics. So all those stuff.
He said all those were made up by Jordan fans to elevate Jordan and stuff like PR. That's just a made up stat.
Okay, what about the clutch performances of Jordan?
I didn't talk to him about clutch performances on that level because, like I said, I was saving those things for the show.
Yeah, so I do regular stats, advanced stats, accolades, and I do have a thing for eye test, but I also have intangibles, right? I have coachability, I have durability, there's lots of things. If you say a player is good, you will get labeled a fan. If you say Kobe was great scorer, yeah, you're right. You're right. You can't. If you compliment a player, you're just a stan who just thinks they can walk on water. And then if you talk poorly about a player, you're a hater.
Well, that's like me with the Kobe thing. You see that I do numbers. There are no numbers to say he's top 10. Okay. Now, if you want to say and I got him like in the 12 range, and I try to explain people all the time. If you were a GM of a team and God himself came down and said, "Hey, if you draft this player, he will be a top 12 player all time," he goes number 1 every time. I'm guaranteeing you have a top 12 player all time. He goes number 1 every draft. And people act like that's a knock. I'm saying the numbers do not back up the statement from my research. And if you got him, that's your opinion. But I can't knock you and say, but I'm a hater.
I have him top 10. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, and I have him ahead of Bird and Duncan, but I'm also clear that I am a Laker fan. And Kobe is my second favorite player of all time, and I'm biased, and I'm open about that. Now, could I make a case for him numerically? Yeah, probably, but it would have to be like very intricate. Like
Mhm.
you have to know basketball. You have to know that, how many bad shots that he was forced to take because of the triangle offense. And the only reason the triangle offense worked was because they had Phil and Kobe, who, when there was 3 seconds left and it failed because they didn't read and react fast enough, because it's a read and react offense. And you know this because you coach basketball. They just gave it to them and they had to bail him out. So yeah, that goes down. He also played in the lowest scoring era for when he was the prime guy. And if I extrapolate his scoring numbers and change of pace to today's, well, now he's averaging more. Like with numerically, he doesn't look good. But if you watch him play, like I tell everybody this: Kobe had the highest basketball IQ ever in the history of basketball. Period. The difference is he didn't use that IQ. Right? He knew I should pass him the ball, but he's like, that's Smush Parker, bro. I'm shooting this through a triple team. Like. And that's the difference, is that he knew, he just didn't do it all the time. And that's why the numbers don't reflect his how great he was, because a lot of what he does was intangible. But again, I
that's
know
my
I'm
argument. And that's my argument. I can't put him in the top 10 because he couldn't stay away from bad shots. He knew they were bad shots, but he also so badly wanted to prove after the Shaq thing that he could do it on his own, and that scoring was the way, and emulating and things like that. And that's where I don't have him in the top 10. Not a skill thing, because I watched him play. Other than 3-point shooting, the 08 Olympics is the best I ever saw him play, when he was really bought into team ball. And he was amazing then, except for 3-point shooting. Everything else was amazing.
and I always say, like, he took bad shots, but he took bad shots. Again, like I said, some of them were just bad decisions where he knew he should do something else. The other bad shots were sometimes he was just forced into them. But you love that about him, though. You love the fact that he's got his defender draped all over him, and he's pump faking, and he's shooting the three to take the lead. Like, it's you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But
He didn't
that's
shy away from the moment.
That's Kobe.
And that's what I'm saying. But it only went in 2 out of 8 times. The 2 times was great. The 6 times he missed was terrible.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not
Right.
wrong.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. When you get into these top 10 guys, you start have to splitting hairs, because they're all great.
You have
And
to.
to be honest with you, I think, to be honest with you, that so many people's got him in the top 10, despite this big old glaring deficiency in his game, really adds to his greatness. Like, this dude got this high with this bad of a deficiency, that of staying away from bad shots. And I'm not talking about the ones he was forced into. I'm talking about the ones where he just said, "Fuck it, let it fly."
Yeah, I'm not passing this to Chris Mim.
I'm talking about when he said, no, I'm not even talking about Chris Mim. I'm talking about when he said, "I wouldn't pass it to Shaq. Get the offensive rebound."
That's right. Pass me the ball. You better get that motherfucker rebound.
Right.
It's all about work.
Yeah, no, it's listen, but anyone who played against him will tell you he's top
Yeah,
3.
that he was great. Yeah, anybody that plays with him. But we
Yeah,
also see with like guys like,
if you look at stats, he's top 3. But it's funny when you said the top 10, you're splitting hairs. There's probably like a legit like 5, and then after the top, 4 or 5 guys, 6 through like 15, you
Whoever.
can make a case. Like, you can make a case.
well,
My son is 9. My son is 9. And he came to me one day and he's like, "Yo, I want to do my top 10." And he would have been 7 or 8 at this time. And I said, "You want to do a top 10?" I said, "Okay, sure." So I flipped on the phone and said, videotaped him, and he gave his top 10. And for the most part, I was like, "Okay, cool, 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 cool." And then he got to number 10. And he said Jerry West.
He said Jerry West.
Jerry West. Now, keep in mind, that's with 2K, right? So he plays, and like he had Shaq in there. He had Jordan, LeBron, Wilt, Russell. Like Kareem. Like he does his research on 2K, right? He looks at their stats, their numbers. He plays with them, right? And I go, Jerry West. I go, why Jerry West? And he starts ringing off how many times he went to the finals, right? He's like, listen, winning. That's a team thing, right? He goes, but who was the best player on that team that led them to all those finals? It was Jerry West. Won a finals MVP on a losing team. Okay. Most 20-point, 30-point, 40-point games in the NBA finals. That's Jerry West, right? And he gave, I said, okay, so here's the things that he says I find important. He didn't know. He's not a debater. He's 7, 8 years old at the time. And I said, okay, I disagree, but you said this is what's important to me, and this is why I have him there. That's why it's so subjective and thing. He made a good case for for an 8-year-old. He made a really good case. So that's I know that there's guys in their 30s who don't make as a compelling case for some guys. They just say, oh, he just because he is. Well, that's not a good case because he is.
Well, I always say this. That's why when I told you I had Wilt and Russell to that, to me, there's a tier one level of 5 players that have a case for the best player of all time. And I don't know how you can definitively say it's one or the other, but to me, there's 5 that's in that conversation. And I'll accept any 5. After that, I have the next level. There's about 18 players that have an argument for top 10. And really that's 6 through 18. The 5 are kind of set. And like Moses Malone. Moses Malone has an argument for a top 10. He led a team to the finals with a losing record. He won 3 MVPs in a row. He dominated Kareem in the finals. He had one of the best rebounding rates ever. Huh?
Don't bring that up, please. Still hurts.
I bet it does. But yeah.
But he also pulled a Kevin Durant.
No, he got traded.
He did not get traded. He technically got traded, but he didn't get traded. He was the MVP. He was a free agent. But before free agency, but his contract was up, and
Right.
he said, "I'm going to go join Philadelphia, who had just lost in the finals. I'm going to go join them." And they were like, "Well, no," and they figured out a way, and then they made that trade. But it was only because he said, "That's where I'm going." So
right. But also though too, on top of it, yeah, okay, I get the semantics of it, but also too, Philly didn't beat Houston that year, the year before. That's the big difference. I don't care that Kevin Durant so much joined the team. I care that he joined the team he lost to. But once again, who the fuck am I? And why would KD give a fuck what I think? But I'm just saying that's me.
I'll tell you, I think KD going to the Warriors, I've always said didn't like it. I think him leaving the Warriors was even a bigger mistake.
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake. I don't know what he was thinking with that.
Stayed.
He hasn't seen nowhere near the success since he's left.
Like even LeBron. I don't. You're a free agent. You want to take your talents to South Beach? Go. Don't do a rah pep rally and say not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, and then opt out of your 6-year contract after 4 years. Stick it out. So that I actually dislike that more. So it's actually both of them leaving. They were both villainized for doing what they did. Well, stay. Don't leave. Then don't let people's opinion
he got ran off.
Well, can I let you know what LeBron James is? LeBron James is a trophy wife. He tells you to make all these bad financial decisions, and then when they're out of money and out of moves, he goes, "I'm out." Just like a trophy wife would do. I'll put it this way. I saw a stat the other day. Do you know LeBron James teams have made 188 trades with him on the roster?
180. Yeah, I do know.
What?
Yeah, 188 trades. And this is what I mean by like when players go, well, this player's the best. This player. Well, we see LeBron. LeBron takes 188 moves to get it right. Players can't really assess talent. It's an ego thing. I have a hard time guarding this dude. It's tough for me. It must be because he's great. And I'm not saying that's correct or wrong. I'm saying that's where their headspace is. And I'm saying but none of the numbers back that up. So why is that? Like I said, I've had people tell me how hard Jason Williams is to be guarded. And he's 11. Players say dumb things all the time. Jamal Murray last year told me any team down 0-2 in the playoffs sucks. That means the 93 Bulls suck. That means the 21 Bucks suck. That means the 95 Rockets suck. That means all these title teams suck. And that's what he told me.
That was a terrible take, but like, again, you have to take it for what it is. Like Shaq told us, right? When we had Shaq on the show, he's like, the hardest guy I ever had to go up against, big country. Bryant Reed. And I'm like, what? All the guys you went up against, Yao Ming, Hakeem Olajuwon, blah, blah, blah. The hardest one you ever went up against was, he goes, I don't know why. He goes, every time he got the ball, he would just turn, he'd do the stupid little baby hook, and before I knew it, he'd drop like 20 points on me, and I didn't know how to, it doesn't make him great. It's just like certain guys are just a bad matchup for whatever reason. They're just a bad matchup. And that's what people don't understand. They don't get, like when Kobe says, Tony Allen D's me up better than anybody else. That doesn't make everyone's now all of a sudden, oh, Tony Allen's the greatest defender of all time. No. It's a bad matchup for him for whatever reason. Is it his quickness, his speed, his footwork, his positioning, his long arm? Like, you don't know what the reason. It doesn't make them better than what they are, to your point. They still are who they are. It's just a bad matchup for someone. There's this guy I still play, and there's a guy on Friday nights, and he's significantly faster than me. And for whatever reason, though, anytime he guards me, I'm telling you guys, I can close my eyes and I'm right-handed. Well, I'm ambidextrous, but I mostly shoot with my right. But anytime he guards me, I can literally close my eyes and throw it up with my left hand. It'll go in. I don't know what it is about him. Every time he's standing in front of me, he's like, just switch. He's yelling for switches because he knows I'll from center, and it'll just, I don't know why. It just, there's this weird confidence when he's in front of me, and I just score. It doesn't make him a worse player because he D's up everybody else phenomenally. It's just a weird matchup thing. And I'm not comparing myself to the NBA guys, but I'm just saying there, when you play ball, that happens. That's all.
No, I mean, you're absolutely correct, because we see stuff like for instance, a Kirby gets shut down by like a Delhi in the game. Like Delhi is nowhere near as good as Curry ever on any level, but you know, sometimes some players can give you enough trouble.
Or nowhere near
in
the
a game more
defender Chris
serious.
Paul is.
Hmm?
Or nowhere near the game, nowhere near the defender Chris Paul is.
Right.
Like
So,
I can
yeah.
give you, like I can give you an example too. Like I was once playing Isaiah Ryder, and I just couldn't stop him in the post. I was just bouncing off him. You know, I challenged him to the post. But you know, there's this 12-year-old in my block. You know what I mean? Like he can't post me up at all. So does it mean that I'm worse than Isaiah Ryder, or it's just about the matchup?
I think you might be worse than Isaiah, right?
I think I am too, but let me have this.
You got it. You got it. All right. Listen, if you can get him back on, feel free. I won't. I promise. I won't come back on and scare him off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll send him a message, but I think it is what it is. I don't know. He was talking about he wants to interview, like he's like, it's not fair if it's 3-on-1 and all tag teaming. And that's why I muted everybody. And then he left because I was like, yo,
But
everybody's talking over
we
everybody.
didn't
Like,
even
I haven't even
check.
said anything.
He didn't even say anything either.
No, I know. That's
I-
what I mean.
He was squinting his eyes.
I was just saying about the squinting the eyes. Well, that, I mean, if we're talking about
Oh,
fairness,
you don't know what he was doing
it does.
before the show. His eyes are just squinty now. That's what
Right.
happens.
Right. And before we came on, he said he was dealing with a headache like you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're sitting in the
You
studio
don't see me with a hat. I'm like, I'm
Right.
trying to. Anyways.
Right. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know what his point was. His channel, and you guys can go check out, is like what was Michael Jordan fans are the worst, you know, and he has debates with guys. And so if you do want to hear his points, you can go look. And he is popular on YouTube. He's got over 20,000 subscribers, and he's got a lot of videos. So I mean,
No, I'm gonna have to go check now, because now I'm curious. I want to see this compelling argument. Like, I didn't peep before because I thought he was gonna bring it to us, but now I'm like, what's he really talking about?
That's the same reason why I didn't watch some of the debates as well. I wanted to, you know, be surprised for the first time. I wanted to counter it with my numbers and say, well, these are what the numbers say. How can you say that doesn't count? But we didn't really get a chance to do this. So now we have to fill the hour with nothing but bullshit and see where it goes.
Hey, listen, I told you I brought on Flat Earth Dave, and he's got hundreds of thousands of followers and whatever. And I said, okay, tell me your points. And he's made his points, and I same thing. I was like, I think that's dumb. And he's like, why? And I said, here's why I think it's like that way. Or I disagree with that because of this. Tell me why you think that. And we had a discussion, and he said his point. He allowed me to question it because he understands when you say something that outlandish, no one's just going to say, oh, okay, that makes total sense. High five. Cool. No, they're going to question it because it sounds crazy. So he and I had it, and there were points where I was like, you know what? Okay, that kind of makes sense. But like, let's take it a step further. And we had a great discussion. All 3 times that I had him on the show, I still don't believe the earth is flat, but I'm more than willing to sit and listen to your points as long as you're open and willing to let me question them, because on the surface it sounds ridiculous. So let's dive deeper and find out. Maybe it's not. Maybe the earth is flat. I don't know.
Well, I can't tell you. Well, I was gonna say, I can't tell you he did this to me. Like, you know how he told you that he knows you're a Jordan fan, and you're like, you don't know me. He's like, but I do know you. There was this one point I sent him an email because most of our we did have a phone conversation, but most of our messaging was through email. And I'm just paraphrasing this if he's watching, because he's huge on, like, I didn't say that, I said this, and I didn't say this, I said that. So this is just paraphrasing. And if you want to correct me, you're like I said, you're more than welcome to come back on. But I basically said, hey, when we're doing the debate, let's not answer a question with a question, because that's the first rule of debating. Do not answer a question or conversation, period. You don't answer a question with a question. You answer the question and then you can pose your question, because then we just go back and forth with question, and we never get resolved. So he sent me an email back saying something like, well, I quit reading after you said something like that. Then he sent me an email saying, I forget what it was, a whole bunch of stuff. I read it and I just responded with, can you give me 10 players? Because I wanted to compare and contrast of 10 players you have over Jordan. And he was like, did you even read what I said? And I said, I did. He goes, no, you didn't, because you didn't do that. No, I didn't acknowledge it, because the last time I sent you something, you deemed it silly and you said you quit reading it. You don't know what I did. I just didn't acknowledge it. I read it, but I did not acknowledge it because of, like I said, things like this where you say you quit reading. You said something, he hopped off. He felt like we were treating him unfair and things like that. So I do know he's big on those things from my correspondence with him. But like I said, I don't know where he's at, because I don't really know the guy just through a few correspondence. And
He's a
this is
hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. You can't tell people what they think, but then catch an attitude when somebody is trying to tell you what they think you think. Like he's telling he immediately starts saying you're Jordan fans. He doesn't know. He has no clue. He came in here saying we're Jordan fans and saying because we're Jordan fans, we have to think a certain way.
But he defines Jordan fans as anyone who looks at things a certain way. It's not just even Jordan fans. He's like, if you look at the numbers and you're like he said, you're brainwashed into believing that numbers matter, then you're a Jordan fan. He's the smartest guy in the room, Neek. You just got to let it go.
well, no, he also said too that we moved the goalpost. Like, for example, I mean, he has said this before. Like, let's say, you go, well, 6 championships is what matters. And, like, well, Bill Russell has 11. Well, but that was only with 8 teams. And that's where you're contradicting. You need to say 6 rings matter only when you have a 20 plus team league. Then the argument is, well, why 20 plus teams? Why not 30 plus? Why not 40? Why not 10? Why
Well,
not? I'm saying from my conversation with him.
I would say that rings matter, and your finals record matters, but to a lesser extent than other things. Like, for example, and this is the example I always give, and I always say this, I look at everything. I've never said Jordan's the greatest because he's 6-0. I think that's a stupid, lazy argument. But if, for example, I had 2 guys that had all the exact same everything statistically the same, and this doesn't exist, but statistically the same, all time the same, games played the same, accolades the same, everything the same, and one guy was 6-0 in the finals and the other guy was 3-3. Okay, well, that's like the cherry on top that just pushes them over the edge. So when people say, well, Jordan is 6-0 versus whoever else they're talking about, well, then Russell is 11-1. 11-1, so he's better. No, what I said was because all these other things are so close, like I do look, Jordan and LeBron, obviously the most common one, right? And when I do Jordan and LeBron, I numerically I do everything. And I'm telling you, when I say it comes down to fractions of a point, like fractions of a point, that I have them 1 and 2. Does Jordan get a little bit of an extra push at the end because he is 6-0 and LeBron is 4-6? Yeah, he does. Just like Wilt gets knocked a little because he's 2-6. But it's not the end all and be all. It's not the only thing that matters. It is a very low weighted thing because your team's success is a result sometimes of your ability. So it is like if one thing is here, those rings, those finals records, it's down here, but it's not nothing. It's still something. Right, it's still something. There's a reason why so many people say, well, if even LeBron fans, did LeBron say, I did this and now I'm the GOAT? Or did he say, I won that championship and that's why now I consider myself the GOAT? Even he looks at championships and says, because I won that chip, that's why I'm the GOAT. Well, okay, so they mean something, right? That is the reason they play. But I wouldn't say
They all play for him. Yep.
No, and it's like this. I to piggyback off what you said. First off, I think the 6-0 argument is a stupid argument. 6 rings is an argument. No, 6 rings are 6-0. No, but that implies that if Jordan would have got there in 85 against the Lakers, he would have won. Jordan just has to get there and he'll win no matter what. It also implies too at 6-0 that the other 9 didn't count. Like he wasn't trying to win those other years. Jordan is not 6-0. He's 6-9. He tried to win every year and he got 6 out of them.
Yeah, but I think what the again, I don't like the 6-0 argument either, but What the argument is, obviously 6 MVPs. So when the team won, he was the best player. So I think that's important. That's why
I agree with
Kareem
that.
and Magic get knocked, right? Because they weren't Finals MVP every year. Steph Curry gets knocked for that. But I think the argument is when you're on the biggest stage, when you're in the
always the best.
finals, right? You don't lose, right? And again, people, again, I don't like the argument, but when say hey, he went to the NCAA championship once, won it. Went to the Olympics twice, gold. Went to the final 6 times, gold. So every time he makes it to that final, he wins. Right? So they talk about clutch and all that stuff. But you can't be, you're right, it can't be your only argument because you're right, because those other 9 years he did want to win. Absolutely. And
But here's my
some
only thing on that. Do you think Jordan would rather be 6-0 or 11-1 if he had the
11,
option? Knowing
11 and 1. 11 and
that's
1.
my point. So the O doesn't matter to Jordan. The total number matters. Just like I'll tell you this: if LeBron gets 6 rings and he has 6 finals losses, well then I'll give that to LeBron because he went to the finals more times. So let's think of it as medals. LeBron's got 6 gold medals, 6 silver medals, and like a bronze medal, and Jordan has 6 gold medals and 2 bronze. So why would I elevate that? Like, to me, it's more winning.
100%. If he gets to 6 and he's 6 and 6, absolutely, I'm with you. But like I said, but I don't. Again, it holds so little weight in when I break down all the stuff that it's the last thing I look at, and I don't know if you've done weighted. I don't know if you do that, like weighted statistics, right? But it has such little value, but it is still something. It's still something because it does matter, because that is why they play. And again, it's a team sport, so it's tough. But like when people say, "Oh, John Havlicek, oh well, he's 8-0." Yeah, he is. He was on the bench for 6 of them.
Well, I was going to say he's only the best player in 2 to 3 of them. At
Right,
best.
yeah, you're coming off the bench for 6 of them, so you're giving them full value, right? Like that's I always tease people with Patrick McCaw three-peated. Only person in the 2000s since the Lakers three-peat, the only person to three-peat. Does that give him any value? No.
Well, for doing that, Steve Kerr's got a 4-peat.
How many rings we got? He's not
7.
anybody's best.
He's 7-0. Yeah, he's 7-0. Yeah,
so I'm not saying the rings are the end all be all at all. I'm saying you have to factor, like I said, that's why you have a tripod. You have the stats, you have the accolades, and you have the rings. And if you've done all 3, you have a pretty good career going.
Yeah, 100%.
But anyways, but we're up on time. So unless y'all just want to keep staying here and shoot the shit, we can.
I gotta go take some Tylenol.
Yeah, I got stuff to do too. So anyways, well, hey, I appreciate the guest coming on, even though he only was on for a couple minutes. But yeah, the the Universe Galaxy NBA, I think, is the page. But I'm just saying, so check it out. I do appreciate you coming on. We are the HoopStorians with Sports Fluent on top of it. We'll check y'all tomorrow. Make sure y'all check out Fluent and Chill on Thursday.
No, Fluent and Chill is moved.
Oh, to when?
Tuesdays at 8 p.m. starting tomorrow.
Okay, so make sure you guys check that out on Tuesday. We have a sports sociologist coming on tomorrow. So, and I know him personally, so he definitely won't run away if something goes on. So, or get upset or anything like that. Huh?
Don't squint at him.
I won't squint tomorrow. I'll wear my shades. I'll look like Ray Charles tomorrow. I don't want to upset nobody.
I got you. Well, Professor Golden's from Chicago, so he's got a different mindset about like squinting and all that. He can handle a little heat. So anyways, we out. Thank you for joining us, Fluent. Appreciate you. Neek, thank you as well. See y'all tomorrow.
All right, y'all.
More Fluent.